So let's talk through those headlines there on the papers with former Conservative MP Esther McVey and the director of the centre-left think tank Progress, Richard Angel. So a proper hello to both of you.
Hello.
And as we saw there, Hillary Clinton all over our front pages tomorrow morning after the FBI tonight announced that it was going to open a new investigation into personal emails, new emails that have come to light. There's a real choice of papers to pick with this, but let's go with the Times then, shall we? New Clinton FBI inquiry stuns voters in America. Is their take on it?
Well, it's a fascinating story, and it's clearly not where the Clinton campaign want to be. You've got Trump out there using his tried and tested Crooked Hillary slogan, but it's interesting because it's not actually about her private server, which is what the story's been about previously. It seems to be about conversations between her chief of staff and her estranged husband.
That's what we understand. There's not been a lot confirmed.
Yeah, and the way it seems kind of unclear is, I think, unfortunate for Hillary. It does sadly reinforce her negatives, but I do think it will bring out the worst in Trump, because he'll be out there not only winding this up, but seeing those supporters shout, "Lock her up," I think actually pushes independent voters towards Hillary Clinton, but crucially, it gets her voters to the poll early. And this is a turnout election, so she's got to drive up turnout. And Obama's already voted, Michelle Obama's already voted, and they're really pushing this message that you've got to vote early to stop Trump.
Well, yes, but Donald Trump already this evening, hard on the heels of the FBI making this announcement, was making capital out of it and saying that it was worse than Watergate. And the timing couldn't be worse for Hillary Clinton, could it?
10 days,
10 or 11
clock's
days to go.
ticking. I have to say, it's like a gripping political drama. It has been a roller coaster, something that we've been watching from this side of the Atlantic. I do think 325 million people in the States, and that's the best two they could come up with. And it has been, for a lot of people, a Hobson's choice. Who is the worst of the candidate? They've both got really poor ratings. This election will be dictated by events that happen in the next 10 days. This is what's happened here with the sort of FBI, the investigation into that. I still think there's 10 days left to run. Will this be cleared up? Will that go on to help Hillary? Will it remain vague so that Trump can really surge forward and get his voice out? It's not just him who's stealing all the headlines. All of the American papers are following this as well, which isn't going to help her.
And Hillary's campaign is pushing to find out more details, for the FBI to say more. But even if they do get more details, this may not be resolved before Election Day.
So it does show confidence on her part, though, that you know, more detail will be better for her as far as she's concerned, and that does suggest that that's.
It's going to be a difficult one, and I'm not saying it's an easy choice which path you tread. Does she say nothing, ignore it happening, which she appears to be doing, what she's doing, and as she landed in Iowa, didn't say anything? I don't think so far Barack Obama has said anything. Now, people already think that she's not very open, she's not very transparent, she's not very warm, she's not very good at showing her failings and what's going wrong. And that could also be something that's picked up upon, that she can't actually admit to a failing. So should she have come out? I mean, all of this will be 2020 in 10 days' time.
But people have already factored in their view of Hillary from the previous investigation into her emails, which of course the FBI said there were some issues, but certainly wasn't criminality as far as they were concerned.
Bringing it back so late in the day when she was sort of cleared and it had moved on, this will bring all those suspicions up again. Whatever you think of Trump, he has got that crooked Hillary to stick. It doesn't say criminal, it says crooked. You can't quite trust her. I know a lot of people in the States have already voted, but those people who haven't voted don't know yet, and that's the people we're going for, not the two really in the two camps. Those swing voters you're going for, and who knows? Something could come out tomorrow about Trump. Who knows?
That's right.
Very likely.
And so much still on this story that we're yet to find out about. Let's move on to the Daily Star. They've got Lily Allen on their front page. And this is about what she said happened to her in a London cab. Explain exactly what
this is remarkable. She goes to get a cab, and the cabbie recognises her having been on another channel, showing sympathy and empathy with those who've not been yet in from Calais, or at least are living in camps. And this cabbie has told her to go on her way in a slightly unpleasant terms. It seems that she was with a young child, her young daughter, and has told her to go and find an immigrant to drive her round. And it's remarkable because we know that migrants get treated pretty badly in this country, but to be treated the same way for being pro-migrants, or to have shown some empathy with people who've been living in terrible conditions in camps. It's just really worrying. I don't think we want this to be the direction of travel for our country.
I think, there's two things. It's the strangest story I've ever read, in a way, because if anybody knows or tries to get a black cab, they want you in the cab. They want the fare. They take the fare from anybody. So it's quite surprising. It does say here that it's her claims that a cabbie said that, but it's such a peculiar story. Now, if it is true, and he did say that is a disgrace. And actually, I hope she got his number, because for a cabbie, they've got a number, and actually you can complain about them.
And I think she did later tweet that generally she thinks the cab drivers in London are the best in the world.
Yeah. But what I meant is, if you should have, anybody who is abused in any way whatsoever, the reason they have a licence number, the reason you've got a registration plate, that should be a complaint, because that is not right to anybody. But it's just a very strange story.
Yeah.
And obviously nothing justifies this kind of abuse, but at the same time she did anger some people by saying she was apologising to the migrants on behalf of Britain. Some people didn't like that. Is that?
Well, they don't have to like it, but they don't have to have abuse in retaliation, do they? I think it's interesting. I think most people out there are compassionate. There's clearly an ongoing discussion about immigration, but leaving children in camps in the most terrible conditions is not a situation that anyone wants to see.
The thing is, it's such a complicated issue of what was going on, and everybody said, and Britain is a very tolerant place, and it did want to take people in, and they said, we will take children in, and that is only right. But then afterwards there were questions, well, were these children, were these adults, why didn't they stay in France, why are they coming to the UK? So she did dive headfirst into a debate and was apologising on behalf of the country. So you're quite right, people did come out saying you didn't know enough about the issues and the stories. But I think there was a couple of things. We are, as a country, very tolerant. We do reach out and give support, and that is only right. And we don't want these abuse afterwards. Oh, absolutely.
It's not right that she gets sexist abuse in response. It's not right that it's in front of her daughter. It is, it's tough being in the public eye, and that just seems wrong on all fronts, and a window into what some people must get if you're a migrant claiming that taxi on that particular day. Not taxis generally, not cabbies generally, but this particular person. It must not be very pleasant, and that is worth being reminded of.
Okay.
And we have to make sure that it is obviously all factually true, and that was set, and we're not actually, damning taxi drivers who haven't said that, because it does say very clearly here, she sort of claimed.
OK, let's move on to the front of The Guardian. And this
will cheer the taxi drivers up.
This is a story about Uber, exactly. And tell us about this, because this is a judgment that basically determined that Uber drivers aren't self-employed, but they're employees, and as a result should have access to certain workers' rights. This is a case around 2 Uber drivers. So
this is a case that the GMB trade union have been taking through the courts, and the ruling seems to be that if it carries on through, Uber are going to contest it and try and appeal, but that 30,000 people could get maternity leave, paternity leave, holiday pay, the right to earn a minimum wage and all that kind of stuff. So the kind of rights that you get from normal employment when you turn up regularly and have a kind of normal employer-contractor in that way. And it seems to be a really positive thing going forward. We've got this new economy emerging, the gig economy, where some people work different hours and they want to retain that flexibility over their own time and in many ways to be their own boss. But when you have that regularity, you shouldn't be able to evade the laws that various MPs currently in the past have put in place to give people standards, and that's important.
But and this is a triumph. I think it's only right. This isn't new, bringing up cases whether people are self-employed or whether they're an employee or whether they're a worker, and that is only right. You have to work out which is which. In the past, it's very much been driven by sort of tax collection, where people saying they were self-employed when actually they weren't, they were an employee, therefore should have been paying PAYE rather than doing their accounts at the end of the year and taking off all expenses. And various big businesses would give people, say they were PAYE, when actually it was ongoing contracts. In this one, it's very much about employer rights, and actually what do they get? You're quite right, the maternity, the sickness, the holiday pay, and that is right too, because a company that is benefiting from that or not paying into the system, well, that's wrong, they should, because otherwise every other taxpayer and the government is picking up those bills. So I think it is right to have this court case. It is right now in the sort of technological age where people are avoiding, or there is a murkiness in what that position is. It's only right that it's being clarified, and this does open up a whole new set of arguments and court cases. And to be fair, when Theresa May came in as Prime Minister, one of the first things she says is, we've now got to make sure employment works for the worker. You know, we're in an area, it might not be. People are having, you know, tough time, and it needs to be right.
Yes, and I think Uber is expected to appeal, so it'd be interesting if this judgment stands, and if it does, the implications
they will go.
could
This will
be
go
big,
to the Supreme Court,
Yeah.
but I don't. This is not the end of this. Lots more to come.
Yeah.
And again, should the government want to look into it, it won't just be a court case. It will actually be new laws possibly coming in from the government to secure workers' rights.
And lots of companies, lots of workers watching closely. Sorry to cut you off. We're going to take a bit of a break there. We will come back. Lots